Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So there's a lot going on again in the markets right now. To start with, I want to say there is going to be CPI released today, so expect some volatility. But I'm going to go through a few pieces of news that I think are pretty important. I want to discuss them, and then I want to get onto a bit of TA to finish the video. And I'm going to go more in depth as what I think is coming up in the next few months in the weekly newsletter that's out tomorrow. So to start with, this is the first piece of news that I wanted to show you, and it was about CZ. Essentially, CZ has been pardoned by Donald Trump. People are up and down about this announcement. I'm not here to say whether it's morally right or wrong, because it makes no difference what I think about the morals of it, but what I'm going to try and do is analyze and break down what it could mean for the markets. First off, it's a bit left field, obviously, with all the liquidations that happened last week or the week before, whenever it was, a week and a bit ago now, mainly stemming from Binance and Binance's relationship with CZ, and then the timing of the pardon is very odd. But what does it mean for crypto? Well, it means that Trump's obviously extremely pro-crypto, pardoning CZ, and CZ is like in the room with a lot of countries at the minute, like random countries such as Kazakhstan and Pakistan. He's going to meet these, I think Bhutan as well. He's going to meet these countries to help them with their crypto legislation and their policies and looking forwards. He also, I think like Binance US have done like a recent deal or something in the USA, or created like a legal entity, like fully like fine legal entity, whereas in the past it was like obviously frowned upon, or there was some sort of tension there. People are saying, look, he's bought his pardon by washing everyone out of positions. And look, that may or may not be true. I don't know. As I said, the timing is odd. But if that is true, I think that basically says to you that things are going to be really good in crypto, because it shows one of two things. It shows that either the US has more control over crypto than we thought, as one. And two is that if it is true in terms of price action, well, why did they do that? They didn't do that just to wash people out for no reason and just to make a little bit of money on the downside. I would presume they did that to scoop up crypto for themselves. And you can say again whether the morals of that is right or wrong. I'm not here to argue that, but what I am saying is both of those two scenarios look pretty good for the future, so long as things continue the way they are. And as I've always said, Trump comes through and says what he's going to do, and then he goes through and does it, whether people like it or not, whether they like him or not. And the way that he does things or not, like, it doesn't really matter. What you got to do is listen to what he's saying. And yes, he flip-flops, not saying he's the easiest person to read, but when he says, oh, I'm going to make a digital asset strategic reserve, or digital asset stockpile, and a Bitcoin strategic reserve, probably think to yourself, he probably is going to do that, whether people say that he can or he can't. And whether this is a part of something like that or not, again, I don't know, and I'm just speculating on what I think. With that being said, I think it's actually probably pretty good for XRP and Ripple. I think that I've said a lot of times that I think there's probably going to be a deal done between Link, Ripple / XRP, Cardano, the US government, maybe Solana as well. And I think this specific pardon is probably a spotlight to Ripple, so that something good's going to happen to them, or at least more makes it more likely, because they were also put under the spotlight by the previous administration, rightly or wrongly. It came out that they hadn't actually really done anything wrong. There was a fine. Started at I don't know what it was, 4 billion to start with, and ended up settling at 150 million or 225 million, I think was the final fine. So nothing like what they thought. The executives were investigated for years. SEC investigation isn't nice. They turn up at your house, etc. Not only that, XRP was under the spotlight for a long time. Is it a security? Is it a commodity? Then the courts ruled that it was not a security, the asset itself. But they still had 4 years of legal battles, hundreds of millions of dollars spent, and a little fine at the end. I'd say little in comparison to what the initial claim was, or the initial lawsuit was for. So, and they, after doing all this, they stayed faithful to the USA. And because of that, and because of seeing things like this, with Trump favouring people that things happened to from the last administration, and Trump's hatred towards the previous administration, I do think, rightly or wrongly, that this will be good for Ripple. Not this specific, but I think it leans towards saying probably something positive going to come out of this for Ripple. Not necessarily this, but like this administration for Ripple down the line. So that's the first thing. Oh, they're literally drilling where I am, so I'm really sorry if you can hear that. Um, the next thing I wanted to talk about was, obviously I've got loads of, I say little news, but quite big news really. The next thing is Securitize are potentially going to go public. Ripple were a founder or like a Series A investor in Securitize. They use RLUSD to settle on the Securitize platform. Some more big news if you ask me. And then the next thing is, at the minute the government's closed, the repo account is basically drained to zero. Fed potentially ending QT this month because there's not a lot of liquidity in the US banking system, and essentially I think that's going to come in, and that's what people are suggesting with charts like, for example, here Jamie Coots. I'm going to discuss that a little bit more in the newsletter, which I think is important. And Evernorth goes live in the start of 2026 after all of these potential announcements, like the government come back, the ETFs potentially for the altcoins that we see. The potential injection of liquidity from, as I said, or at least the stop of the tightening of liquidity from the Fed, and in turn probably an increase in liquidity. And then Evernorth's going to go live and be buying up XRP straight off the open market, $1 billion worth. I think that and then at the same time, JP Morgan today have said that they're going to allow Bitcoin and ETH as collateral for loans or like for mortgages, etc. And then Julian Bittel, and if you watched Raoul Powell's Drinks with Raoul yesterday, the day before, he's discussing how the business cycle leads everything, and where we are essentially now. They talk about how their leading indicators are saying that the ISM is going to go much higher, and what that could mean for crypto price. Definitely think you should check that out. Sorry, my PC is getting a bit nuts again now. So that's what I wanted to talk about news-wise and like thoughts-wise. This is a bit of a moon boy chart for you. And what I basically did was overlay. This is XRP on the daily. What I basically did was overlay a measured move from the last time the XRP hit the oversold area on the daily RSI. Now that was here. That's where this comes from. It's not been rescaled or anything. It's literally exactly as it is. Then I just overlaid it to where it could be now. And what's funny is, yes, it is quite a while of consolidation to February 2026, but then when we pop out to the targets that we've discussed a lot on this channel, $13 and then $16, and then consolidation up there for potentially another push into the end of next year. Whether this happens and whether it happens in the same amount of time or whatever, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting fractal to overlay, being as the last time that we dipped into the oversold area on the daily RSI. So that was the first thing that I really wanted to talk to you guys about. The second thing is this, and obviously we've got CPI today, as I said. Bitcoin pretty much is just holding the bottom of a range here. If we say that this is the range, even throughout all this awful volatility and how bad it's felt, it's like this is still what Bitcoin's doing. Nothing really out of the ordinary right here. People have been calling for the top. I think people are jumping ship too soon because of emotional issues and because the altcoins haven't performed that well yet. ETH also looks strong. I tweeted about this yesterday. This is ETH on the daily. It's consolidating on top of like a bull flag pattern after it's broken out, consolidated back testing that. And like if we just do some basic TA, the breakout target should be the depth of the wedge, which would be for ETH probably quite significant, up towards like $20,000 for ETH. And look, I think these sort of things can happen this cycle because I think that America are going to go full force with crypto. I think that this gold rally is coming to an end, and whether it's an end now, and I do think it'll actually continue at some point, but it's going to have a short-term pullback. I've shown you the correlation between gold and crypto, and I think that that's going to correlate into crypto having a push up higher. As and when that comes, again, I don't know, but I am looking at that as a catalyst. And it does look like that is happening so far. Again, today's CPI, things can change. There's a lot of different catalysts out there in the markets generally at the minute, in the macro markets, but these are the things that I'm looking at. The other thing that I'm looking at is Bitcoin dominance. I've said that it's in this like ascending sort of wedge pattern, which is a continuation to the downside, pattern that should continue to the downside. I did also say that this area, and I tweeted about this yesterday, but I said that this area here was the area that we really, well, I'm going to take us there monthly now, was the area that we really needed to watch when we've lost this specific area in the past, which is here. Look at my mouse in the middle of the screen here. Let me set my drawing off quickly. When we've lost this area in the past, it's led to breakdowns, which is here. And then we had that significant breakdown. So when we got we bounced here, then we got to that area again when we lost it. Boom, big break to the downside. Same here. Look, where is it? Maybe it's on the monthly that you can see it so clearly there, but right here you can see, and then we obviously, it was significant resistance here before it popped up again, and essentially maybe it's the weekly where it's more clear. I've shown you the chart about it. It's this level here. Look, it has acted as support before. This level here, when we lost that level, see on the weekly, it's more clear on the left hand side now. Like if you look here, when we actually lost it for the second time we came down, we lost this level, we really accelerated to the downside. So I'm watching this level for Bitcoin dominance. I think it's one of, if not the most important levels. It was where we bounced before our final push, and then we capitulated. When we lost that level, we saw the acceleration to the downside. This is what I think happens with Bitcoin dominance this cycle. Minimum of like 35% to 31 to 35% move to the downside. People aren't expecting that. I think it comes. I've discussed that many times before, and I can give you my thesis. I actually might break a bit more of that down in the newsletter this week as well. And finally, there's last one little thing I'm gonna point on and talk about is that some XRP memes are starting to move up. One is drop. I hold a lot of drop relatively. I'm not advocating that you go and put your whole portfolio into XRP memes. What I am highlighting is that there is price action and there is volume coming in for some of the memes in the XRP space, and drop is one of them. I haven't added anything to my portfolio. I talked to you guys about this a long time ago, and I added maybe 6 months ago. I felt like an idiot the whole time because I've basically been coming down, but I'm back to about break even now on drop, and just in the space of the last week or so. So it's been a bit of a weird one. I don't know what's good and what's not good. I haven't really paid that much attention, but look, this is Phoenix. It looks like some lives coming into Phoenix as well. I'm just looking at a few of them here, just clicking random ones that are suggested at the top. Sigma doesn't look like there's much going on yet. I actually still do hold some Sigma. Army's up 5% in the last 24 hours. Whether we get this continued push to the upside or not, again, I don't know. I'm not here to say that memes are going to do really well or not, but they were an indicator that XRP was about to move before we moved last for XRP in November of last year. So maybe there is some on-chain activity happening right now. I'm also a proponent of Flare. I like Flare. I actually went on a call with some of the Flare team yesterday to see if I could help them with their deliverables and their marketing and messaging in any way, and we may do something with that in the future. No payment yet or any discussion on payment there. I'm just helping because I like the project. To be completely transparent with you guys, I'll always say if I'm being paid by someone or not being paid by someone. The reason I brought that up is because I'm just being honest about what I'm doing with my time and where I'm focusing my attention and energy. And I also will be honest if there's ever going to be like a remittance for something that I do as well. So that's where I am. That's what I'm thinking about. I think Flare's in a good buying opportunity here. I've bought it myself. I've been buying over the last 2 weeks, as I said. I've tweeted about. Let's see what happens over the next few weeks to months. I think by Christmas, everything could be very different to what it is now. The bears have been victory lapping on us for the last week or so, and it hasn't felt great, realistically, but time will tell who's going to be victorious in the end, and I think it'll be the bulls. That's why I'm still fully invested in this cycle. I've shown you that I think we're going to go a lot higher. I think Bitcoin could go to 180k by early next year. Let's see if I'm right on that. I might be wrong. There's definitely a chance I'm wrong. I'm just here giving you my opinion. That's all that I do. But anyway, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend. If you want to trade on any leverage or try some new exchanges, I've got a link to WeX and MEXC in the description below. Obviously, nothing I say on this channel is financial advice. Check out the weekly newsletter that is going to be launched tomorrow for some more of my deep dive thoughts on the market generally. I am pretty excited. I don't know if you guys can tell. I've said that DCAing around these levels is pretty good, and that's what I'd be doing if I was you guys. If you wanted to add more to your positions, you have to take the chance sometimes, and whether we're going to be right or not, only time will tell, as I said. But when you take the chance, you should take it in times where everyone is throwing shit at each other, and this is one of those times. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.